Here at GameSoup, we like to do things a little bit differently. We thought about a top 5 bosses, or a top 5 weapons, or a top 10 enemies, but going along with the critical analysis component of GameSoup, I think we'll do a top 5 level design moments from Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3. There are plenty of honorable mentions that didn't make the top 5 list, and if you think one deserves mentioning, be sure to tell us in the comments. With all that out of the way, let's get started with our top 5 level design moments from the Dark Souls series. If Irithyll is a beautiful, comforting place, and Blighttown is a depressing, alienating one, then Ilium Lois manages to split the difference between them. It starts off with all the right moves. You get a gorgeous view of the area you're about to explore, setting up the tension by showing you just what you're up against. The path immediately forks, and it only takes one trip to the left path to learn that you need to come back here later. Having to skip a tough encounter is like an itch that needs scratching, and as you play through Ilium Lois, you're going to have that left branch in the back of your head. In fact, there are all sorts of areas and treasures that you're clearly not meant to access your first time through. And once you've melted the ice here, you can go through the area again and find new paths and secrets. Some formerly passive enemies will also now attempt to backstab you, and if you're anything like me, scare the crap out of you. The Souls series has always had some fairly familiar kinds of levels, the swamp, the forest, the church, but the exceptionally bleak and snowy atmosphere of Ilium Lois was on an entirely different level for me. Sure, the painted world of Arialmus shares some of the weather, but Ilium Lois is shooting for a different kind of atmosphere entirely from what we've come to expect from the series. It leans into its aesthetics, and makes the most of snow, ice, and fire, all with real, observable changes to the environment once you make it through. It's also one of the most challenging areas of Dark Souls 2, not only because it's loaded with packs of enemies, but also because each individual enemy represents a serious threat to you, from your basic hollows to the porcupines to the giant soul-eating statues. Enemy placement here is designed for kiting and ambushes, and even though you're guaranteed to be surprised and consequently killed, you'll die with a grin on your face. The final boss encounter is one gigantic set piece, an unparalleled arena-style battle. While all 3 DLCs for Dark Souls 2 raise the bar significantly over the base DS2 experience, Ilium Lois has atmosphere, lore, and struggle at every turn, and it's a fantastic send-off for Dark Souls 2. The view past Vort. So the Souls series has always prided itself on gorgeous views, stunning skyboxes, and implied connections between areas. Just as you can see Blighttown and the Great Hollow from Firelink Shrine in Dark Souls 1, you can literally see the entire game world right here on this ledge after defeating Vort. If you pay close attention, you can spot nearly every major landmark in the game, like the giant in the tower at the Undead Settlement, Archdragon Peak, and the curse-rotted Greatwood itself. Miyazaki has once been quoted as saying that his goal for Lothric is, if you see it, you can go there. And I imagine that this panorama is exactly what he means. This view and others like it do so much to create a cohesive and realistic world, no matter where you are. Not to mention the sense of scale that they can add to a player's first impressions. It's such a minor point, but it's both subtle and effective at solidifying the world's geography. For an equally breathtaking view, go to the very top of the tower at Firelink Shrine. Strange that you can't see any other parts of the game from here. Bed of Chaos. Wow, I was blown away at how amazing, well-designed, and epic this fight was. I mean, it's basically the pinnacle of the series. Okay, just kidding. But the truth is, the Souls series is praised for its level design, but a large part of that is from a little thing called reading your mind. This game will punish you if you're careless. It'll punish you if you overreach with your weapons, it'll punish you for depleting your stamina bar, or it'll punish slow reflexes if you try to roll too late. Any of these mistakes might equal 1 or 2 hits from an enemy, but become even more reckless by charging into an entire pack of enemies, or failing to be aware of your surroundings, and the punishment becomes a little bit steeper, usually ending with you dead on the ground. All this punishment feeds back to a core theme of the game. If you aren't careful, you're gonna be dead. So it's no wonder that, even in the small details, the Dark Souls series manages to reinforce the idea that you should probably take it slowly and use caution, especially when the coast looks clear. Oh hey, shiny! Shinies can't hurt me, so let's go loot it. No! It's almost as if the game can read your mind, knowing that you beeline for that treasure, so it sets up a trap to punish you for not being careful. Oh hey, a shiny! Shinies can't hurt me, let's loot it. This trap is particularly well designed. This thrall falls from the ceiling and makes very little sound as it sneaks up behind you, which is only possible because the camera will automatically adjust to obscure it from view. If you're paying attention to the environment, you might be able to catch this thrall before it hits you. But this trap takes advantage of an enemy that's not only small in size, but also quiet when it moves. Not to mention the dark building and the automatically adjusting camera. The element here that puts it all together is that the game knows that you want that shiny. So it places it in a very obvious location so that you're sure to go for it. You know, I think there's no single area that better represents this punishment-caution duality better than Sense Fortress in Dark Souls 1. It starts the second you enter. Fail to pay attention to the raised pressure plate here, and you'll eat 3 arrows to the face. On your next attempt, you'll skillfully walk around the pressure plate and go to the top of the stairs, only to be ambushed by 2 snake men on either side of you, which is almost definitely going to be a death. Try to blindly run around corners, boulder. Take too long on the steps, boulder. Boulder, trap, boulder, boulder, boulder. This entire area is designed to funnel you from beginning to end while anticipating what the average player will do when confronted with a new situation. Whether it's this strangely positioned chest, this elevator with a very conspicuous bloodstain, or walking down this hallway. Kicking down the ladder. I can't summarize Dark Souls in a single word, but I can definitely summarize how rewarding it can be with just a single moment of gameplay. You've been through hell just getting through the Undead Burg, you defeated the Taurus Demon, and probably lost untold thousands of souls along the way. And what's your reward for defeating the Taurus Demon? Probably getting fried on the Hellkite Drake Bridge. And your punishment for getting fried on the Hellkite Drake Bridge is being sent all the way back to the Undead Burg bonfire, where you have to retrace your steps through the entire zone. By now, you might hate this bonfire for being so early on in the level, and you curse Hidetaka Miyazaki's name every second you run back to that bloodstain. Yet, when you power through on this Hellkite Drake Bridge and find the stairs down, you'll come across this narrow ledge. There's not much room to maneuver, so you're pretty much guaranteed to trigger this prompt that says, kick down the ladder. Slide down the ladder and take in your surroundings, and you just might feel like you've had a trick played on you. It's hard not to be struck by how this first shortcut in the game establishes so many different things, that you won't be forced to always backtrack through zones, that geographically distinct zones are often connected in organic and logical ways, that the game's level design is memorable not only because you're incentivized to backtrack and explore, but because you're constantly being surprised by things that are already in plain sight, and that the developers were smart enough to anticipate and exploit our feelings of vulnerability after dying so many times to the boss and the bridge, so that dropping back down to the bonfire creates an intense moment of relief and sanctuary. This is the first clue that Dark Souls is really an Escher-esque labyrinth. And though there are other great shortcuts too, this one specifically is such a welcome surprise. And yes, it's an insignificant moment in the grand scheme, but for any first-time player going in blind, kicking down the ladder reveals so much about how this world is designed and how much control you actually have. To me, it's a confidence booster, a stress reliever, and a head-scratcher all in one. Just getting to the main building here, the Cathedral, is a test of so many different skills for the player. After defeating the Iron Golem at the top of Sen's fortress, you're swept away to a brand new area and presented with the first of many amazing views. Nothing in the game so far has prepared you for this moment. The story so far from various NPCs has indicated that beyond ringing the 2 bells of awakening, you have no other goal in the game. So once you arrive at Anor Londo, you have no context. There's nobody you can go to for information. Nobody that can give you the where or why of this new location. Up until this point, Dark Souls has been about the closed system revolving around Firelink Shrine. This is something entirely foreign, and there's not even an obvious path forward. The city of Anor Londo is a maze the first time through, funneling you from the courtyard to the chapel arches to the chapel rafters, through to the spiral staircase, finally leaving you to stare in awe at the cathedral towering before you. This grand staircase does so much for making you feel totally out of your element, insignificant, and completely alone. The only way out of here is through, so it's you against the world. Are the rafters unreasonably narrow? Yes. Are the infamous Anor Londo archers going to lay a smackdown on you more times than you can count? For sure. Will this gargoyle surprise you and take your head off not just once, but twice? Absolutely. You really feeling that despair against unbelievable odds? I feel as if that's kind of the point here. This is probably the hardest stretch of the game for most people, and you have to do it all without a bonfire. This is one of my favorite examples of telling the story of a game through its level design alone. The enemies here are tough, huge, and relentless, and Anor Londo represents a huge step up in difficulty, culminating in one of the most beloved boss fights in the series. You know, I'm kind of a sucker for top 5 and top 10 lists, so I really enjoyed making this. If you want to see more content like this, be sure to tell us. If you disagree and you hate me and you think that all these choices are terrible, be sure to tell us. Thanks for watching Game Soup.
Action 1. Get off my lawn or I will go Ornstein all over you. Also, why is this channel called Game Soup? Who would want to eat a soup made of boiling plastic and circuitry? Back in my day, if you wanted to get somewhere from Firelink Shrine, you had to run there. In fact, it took me 58 years to finally reach Blight Town. That's why I'm so old.